The defense actually showed up, but the offense did not. When your team falls like dominoes, there's not much you can really do. So it's all on the line to avoid a losing season, as the Lions are the final battle next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys, even though he's a huge fan of the Packers, he doesn't like bratwursts and wonders if that's wrong. And the other guy bangs the drum all day and thinks, touchdown. And now it's time to go, Pack, go, with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
Thanks for joining us on your Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. Give us a call anytime. Go straight to voicemail, 920-3PACK-GO. Or again, you can go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to let your voice be heard. This is episode 151 of your Packers Fan Podcast, recorded December 27th, 2017, and the show notes are at PackersFanPodcast.com/151.
On this week's show, we'll be talking about whatever that was that we watched on Saturday night at Lambeau Field. Definitely not a Christmas present in Cheeseland. The Packers' opponents for 2018 have been announced. Could a trip to the UK be in the future? And what about all this Aaron Rodgers should be released nonsense? We'll get into that as well.
You know we will. We're also going to have your results from this week's Twitter and Facebook group poll question. Troy has to the keys if our Packers want any hope of beating the Lions and finishing up on a high note in Detroit this weekend. And as always, our favorite part of the show, your G-Force feedback. Me, I'm at Wayne Henderson, your voice acting, podcasting part owner of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers, and much how I didn't want to see Peter Capaldi leave as the Doctor on Doctor Who. I don't want this season to end, even though at this point it must.
And wondering how many licks it takes to get to the frozen center of a Tootsie Pop, I am at Troy Heinritz, your gold ticket package holding part owner of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. The Packers Fan Podcast is available on demand and on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps available for both iOS and for Android. And we are finishing up the NFL season we all hopefully will forget.
Not one of the brightest spots in the last few decades of Packerdom.
I mean, we were talking about just earlier this season, right? The last time the Packers were shut out. I didn't even look it up because I didn't even want to be reminded of the last time that we were shut out twice in the same season.
Nope. Don't want to know. I'm not listening.
Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the run game. Of course, this has been the highlight so far of the last half of the 2017 season. And I still think the run game had some pretty nice flashes against a pretty stout Minnesota defense. What did you think of the running game?
That was the only highlight, really, that stuck out to me was the run game. It could have been stronger. I know that, again, injuries and getting banged up and such, but I still think we gave up on it too soon.
Agree there. But the big highlight I thought from this game was 16 points, 3 field goals, 1 touchdown that probably shouldn't have happened anyway because it was a close call on the catch. But at the end of the day, that's not too shabby. I mean, we didn't give up 400 yards in this game. So kudos to the defense for showing up. And that's without players like Clay Matthews and Nick Perry, who were on the sideline for the pass rush perspective. And then you still had a bunch of cornerbacks out. So, but it was good to see, Jones out there playing a little bit, and Devon House was out there playing a little bit. So I think when the defense is all set and polished, we got some pretty good stuff out there. And the big thing that I thought coming out of this game, Wayne, was looking at Reggie Gilbert. Oh. I mean, this guy was someone that just missed the 53 this year. And seeing him get his opportunity, like we said, in these last 2 games, why not let some of the youngsters play? Well, Reggie Gilbert, I think, really took his chance and made something of it. So I'm going to be excited to see what Gilbert does in this game against Detroit, and then, of course, going into the offseason workouts to see if he can make the 53 next year, because it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising that players that we've been kind of looking at during the preseason, we didn't see them at all during the season, and then they come up and do a few good things in this game. Michael Clark did as well, and I was wondering why we didn't bring him up a little bit sooner, but, salary cap and 53-man roster requirements.
Well, if we go back to the tape, I mean, I think during preseason, as Michael Clark was the one that I mentioned was kind of the highlight standout that probably should have made that last wide receiver spot. Now, granted, we had, Davis and Janis still had to be on there from a special teams perspective, and I think those were fine to put on the 53. So I'm glad to see Michael Clark out there. And Michael Clark really showed his stuff too. I mean, he had that one on the sideline. It was just in and out of his hands on a deep threat from Hundley. But for the most part, this was a pretty impressive outing for him. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of Michael Clark in the future.
Yeah, they got a great chance to put some stuff down on tape, digital tape, I suppose. And this week in Detroit, trying to just pad their highlight reel, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, 6'6" for him, and he used to play basketball of all things. So, he's got some ups. So it's always good to have like a Megatron-like receiver on the team. So let's get him worked into the thing instead of all of our little short guys.
Yeah, and before we get into the lowlights from the game, are you already getting a sense that next year's Green Bay Packers are going to look so different from this year's, not just from a health standpoint, but personnel-wise, that we may not know what we're going to get?
I think it's a time we have to change it up. I mean, when you think about the tenure of Jordy, Cobb, Adams in his third, fourth year, you're talking it's the same core we've had for a long time. I think sometimes when you switch up positions and switch up players, things get interesting. So this offseason, I think is going to be one to really pay attention to from the green and gold's perspective, because there might be some people that might not come back next year because of either A, salary caps, or B, just up-and-comers that sometimes you need some fresh perspective in there in order to make some big plays. And I'm really excited to see what comes out of the offseason this year, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one to watch because we're at a turning point. I mean, it's not rebuild the entire team, but it's, a lot of things are going to happen. And
yeah, we got to plug, like one offensive line plug to put in there. We got a pass rush plug to put in, maybe one more cornerback. So 3 solid draft picks at the top of the draft, I think would be in pretty good shape next year.
And if you're looking for that silver lining based on our record, which isn't finalized just yet, but it's not all that great, we're going to be picking a lot higher than we have in a long time.
And we're not going to be in last place.
Woo!
Even if we lose.
And I know, go Bears. I know that it was cold at Lambeau Field Saturday night, but I don't think you can blame the cold for all of those dropped passes.
No, I mean, we've been playing out in the cold for long enough. Maybe there's some velocity issues or ball spinach issues, whatever you want to call it, in the way Hundley was throwing the ball, because he didn't look all that great during the course of this game. So I think the cold definitely affected him. He was throwing short, he's throwing long, he was throwing a little wobbly, definitely missing some timing with his receivers. And when you really looked at the box score and go down the line, this is a pretty even matchup between these two teams. Time of possession favored Minnesota by just a little bit, but the third down conversions were the same. The yardage was the same. Almost first downs were almost the same. So really, at the end of the day, this game came down to 2 interceptions. And those were on Hundley, because when you looked at that first interception in the red zone, if you look at the coach's cam, the guy was in front of the receiver the whole time. I don't know how he didn't see him and just threw it away in the red zone. And that's not the first red zone interception Hundley's thrown in his relief stint here. So yeah, at this point, I'm more excited to see Joe Callahan, even though I know they said, Hundley's the definitive starter for the Lions game, but I'd much rather see Callahan at this point, because I'm kind of done with the Hundley show, to be quite honest.
Amen to that, Troy. I think they're going to definitely stick to their guns because they rarely change their mind. I think they're definitely going to start Hundley, but that doesn't mean the entire second half of this game couldn't be devoted to Joe and see what he can do. We'll see. I
mean, Joe could go out and break the Matt Flynn touchdown record.
That would be awesome.
Which was set by the Lions. So
yep.
History coming back, that'd be interesting.
That would make them feel really good if he goes out there and throws like 7 or 8 TDs.
But yeah, the terrible passes, the drop balls, definitely the biggest, I think, factor in this game was the QB play. We could talk about the annoying fans, and the first time ever in my life that I can remember in a long time, but we always talk about how you hear the Go Pack Go chant at the away games.
Yeah.
The fact that I actually heard the skull chant on the television.
The stupidest chant ever.
Oh my goodness, that was a low light for me. That's how I just knew I had to turn the game off because I just couldn't hear Skol anymore. It was like, ugh.
And the fact that so many Packers fans got just fed up with this season that they were willing to sell their tickets to anybody, which of course turned out to be Minnesota Vikings fans. There were way too many Vikings fans in Lambeau Field, and hoping that never happens again.
Yeah, it sure felt like a home game for them. And then, of course, we had the issues with the injuries again. I mean, people were just dropping like flies in this game. I don't know if it was cold weather or just the season taking its toll, but man, it was like I said, dominoes falling one after another. Injuries are just crazy. The conditioning team needs to be completely evaluated on their conditioning in this offseason because we got to fix that problem.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of discussion about that in our Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group at packerscommunity.com, talking about what might be behind that. And there's so many comments that I urge you to join the group and read all those good ones there.
Well, I'm assuming that there's not a lot of voicemail coming out of a shutout, but I'm sure there's probably a few angry letters that came in as well. What's the first one we got there, Wayne?
The first one we have is this is kind of a first timer. We have a father and son combo email. I'll take this first one. It's, hello, this is Caleb and Roy Fisher from Wakona Falls, Wisconsin. Well, Packers fans, it's time to sit back and assess the season, which had its ups and downs. One of the down points is that we didn't have AR-12 for the second half of the season, and it would have been beneficial to play Brett Hundley a little bit more before AR-12 went out. One of our high points is kind of the cheesy way to get up in the draft, but at least we are Wisconsin. I was looking forward for our Packers getting a nice win to end the season on my birthday. That would have made my day. Caleb, that would have made my day and would have been a great birthday present for you. Please don't say that I have to support some lesser team now. P.S. There is a tear in my beer. Season's over. Bleed green and gold till dead and cold. Go Pack Go. Caleb and Roy Fisher.
Now, the season is not over. We are still playing for pride because if we can finish 8-8, at least it won't be as bad as Rodgers' first season. So
that's true.
We gotta. We no losing seasons. That's the plan. No losing seasons.
Yeah, and even though Detroit is playing for Lions pride, we've got Packers pride. Go Pack Go.
Sean Murphy checked in and said, frustrating game to watch, but at the same time, it gave me what I was looking for without the Packers winning. Yes, I know, blast me for it, but as a fan, knowing we have nothing to play for, I'd rather see the players show great effort but lose in order to get better draft positioning. I'm not in the boat that Mike or Ted need to be fired. While I understand those fans are coming from, I just know, not right there personally. What I do fear is that Mike McCarthy will use this defensive effort as reasoning to retain Dom Capers next season. I can just hear his reasoning now. Well, his defense only gave up 16 points to one of the top two teams in the NFC when it erases the previous 15-plus games of his system. It was also a dome team playing outdoors in the cold, so it's a bit skewed for me. The Packers defense should have had that edge there anyway. I believe that Ted is giving Capers the talent, but because of Dom's system and unwillingness to adjust or simplify the scheme for the rookies coming in via the draft instead of the vets in free agency, he's just becoming a poor fit. You see guys like Hyde, Hayward, and even Julius Peppers now excelling away from Capers. So like I said, I don't think Ted is the problem. I love my Pack in this game. Did give us some things to look forward to in 2018. Glad we got to see some of the backups and kids play. Get them in some experience, evaluate where they stand in the organization going forward, and go Pack Go.
Excellent. Thanks for that email, Sean. And it hurts to see so many former players having really good seasons, even Julius Peppers at his age, away from the Packers. It's sad.
We also had Steven checked in, right, from Palos Park here in Bears country. Bears country, playing the Cleveland Browns, the Bears were, a team that makes you wonder if they suck during the season so that they can promise themselves a number one draft pick in the next draft so that they can suck again the following season to get another number one pick.
That's a weird kind of bragging right there.
Oh, man, the Browns have been terrible. I'm going to predict the Packers will finish with the 7-9 record, and looks like September 9th is when we should start our season. Is there a good reason why the NFL might schedule the Packers to be the opening game on Thursday? I don't think that's going to happen this year.
The heck with Thursdays.
Yeah, altogether. So the question will remain is, where do the Packers go from here after missing the playoffs for the first time since 2008? And maybe it's also time for Ted Thompson and Mike McCarthy to go as well. After the game next Sunday, the Packers can look forward to cleaning out their lockers and planning for a very long offseason, as when you look at it, they won't be playing in another football game that will count again for at least 9 months. Should the Packers get rid of Brett Hundley and draft a good quarterback to back up Aaron Rodgers, also provided that the Packers are not forced by the league to release him, since they put him back on the injured reserve list with no new injury? Let's talk about that for a minute, because I know that that's the rule. The rule says that you can only go back on the injured reserve if you sustain a new injury that will keep you out for at least 6 weeks. Well, the season doesn't have 6 weeks to go. So that's the one thing there. And number two, I mean, even though it might be a re-aggravated old injury, they can put him on IR for any number of reasons. And the fact is that when they go to make the request to put him on IR, it's the league that has to approve it. So if the league knows the rules, and if the league approved it, then we should all just be quiet about the whole situation.
Good point.
The teams can be babies and whine about it. Oh, they should have released him, blah, blah, blah. What's he going to do? Even if they released him, are they really going to try to sign Aaron Rodgers to a contract? All he's going to do is run up the cost. And yeah, maybe it would price the Green Bay Packers out of the competition, depending on where the salary caps would land. But at the same time, we all know what the situation was. So, I just think it's weird that if people are going to complain about the rule, the NFL should be applying its rules. And if the NFL said, nope, it's fine, then there's nothing to talk about. Move along. Steven finished up here. Wayne and Troy, hope you had a Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, and even then, Happy Holidays if one or both of you don't. Steven in Palos Park, Illinois.
Excellent. Thank you, Steven. And my pre-Christmas family activities were all great, and then Christmas morning I woke up with a very severe case of the stomach flu, so Christmas was not good. But I'm on the mend. Things are happening now.
I was in sunny Florida, so Christmas was awesome.
Instead of in 0-degree, snowy, chilly weather in Chicago?
Oh, hell no. I'm out.
That sounds like the best way to go. Oh, I opened up a can of worms with our weekly Twitter poll, and we also posted in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group. Will you be brave enough to watch the Packers at Lions game? Troy, what's your initial thought?
You always watch the Packers. Even after an abysmal shutout. We did it already earlier this season, so might as well just keep the streak going.
Absolutely. And I was pleasantly surprised this time, Troy, that 84% of the people that voted in Facebook and on Twitter said, I will always watch my Packers. 3% said they'll try to be brave, but, kind of have to see how the game goes. 7% said, I don't think so. And I also was kind of surprised that this last one was so high that 6% said, nope, not going to watch the Packers again till September.
Well, the TV networks aren't making it very easy for the 84% to see this game, because unless you're in Wisconsin, Michigan, a couple counties in Ohio, and 2 of the southeasternmost counties in Minnesota who get serviced by the lacrosse television market, that's all that's going to see the Packers at Lions this week on TV. So to the sports bar, Wayne. Yeah, to the sports bar.
People with sports bars and DirecTV's NFL ticket.
Or the NFL Game Pass, where you can listen to Wayne and Larry on the call on Packers Radio Network.
Oh, I'll definitely have the WTMJ website up for the audio, and hopefully I'll be watching that game at my son's place for the final week of the season. And that poll did cause some replies to come in on Twitter and Facebook. On Twitter, we first heard from Jerry Stewart and said, if you answered anything but always watching your Packers, you're not a true fan. My colors never bleed.
True that. Ryan also checked in and said, my eyes will be watching, but my brain may be a bit inebriated. It does take a little bit to get through that second half of the Minnesota game. I can attest to that myself.
And Monica said, Packers football is better than no football.
Curtis said, what's going on? What is this bonus talk about Aaron leaving? I am stunned to see all this doom and gloom. Fire Ted, fire Mike, fire Dom. Okay, maybe that one's okay. Did this season go any worse than kind of expected with QB1 going down?
It was bad, but wow. And in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group, Kim McKinney, I would be watching if they were on TV here in Texas, but they are not.
No, they are not. Steven said no, since I believe that I am in Chicago. The Bears and Packers are on at the same station, and it won't be seen here unless the Bears game ends first, and they go to the Packers in bonus coverage for the overtime Hail Mary win.
Hey, any one of our quarterbacks could make that throw, and it would be exciting to watch. Caleb Fisher replied with, I will watch my Packers no matter what the season looks like.
Terry said, yes, every game that I can watch, I am watching. It'll be a long off season, but I have a couple of games that keep me company, at least until next season.
And Brett Connor in the UK, I shall be watching if I can. If it's at Ford Field, so Hundley will probably have a great game.
Can only hope.
Yes, those home games where Hundley's really had the trouble. So why do you think that is? Because usually it's the other way around.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Hundley just has not played good at Lambeau this year. I mean, if you look at his Lambeau games versus his road games, he's a better road quarterback. I don't know what the deal is.
So, victory this week. I can't wait to talk about that later on the show.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. We got a lot of great Packers Fan Podcast MVPs supporting us on Patreon. We have a special Go Pack Go, and we want to welcome our new Curly Lambeau $1 a month supporter, Velvet O'Clair. Thank you so much, and Go Pack Go.
And helping out the podcast at the Brett Favre $4 monthly level, our good friends Aaron Peterson, the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics, Diane Burnett, Bryant, and Jeff Sommerfeld, all supporting us at the Brett Favre $4 Gunslinger. You guys never give up. Thanks so much for supporting the podcast. Because you all could be like these great MVPs and help make the Packers Fan Podcast even better. That's right. You can even give during the off season. That helps us set up for next season. So keep those Patreon contributions coming over at PackersFanPodcast.com/support. You can head on over there. And even though the Christmas season might be over, or the holiday shopping season continues because it's still the holidays. It's a new year. Plus, it's my birthday coming up soon. So you can head on over to PackersFanPodcast.com/support. You can get our Amazon link there, and then that'll take you over to Amazon where you can do all of your shopping from the comfort of your jammies because, man, it's cold out there in Wisconsin.
It very much is. And for whatever weird reason, here in Southern California, we hit 78 degrees today.
Well, that's like a cold front for you.
Yeah, it's actually kind of warm. We were cold for a while. It's just wacky. I just don't know. And another thing that's wacky is this late in the season, we still are adding people to our injury report. Troy, how bad has it gotten?
Oh, it's gotten pretty bad, especially after we had all the people that went down during the course of that game last week. I mean, just think about it. We had Jason Spriggs went down with a knee. We had Jordy Nelson go out with a shoulder injury. Aaron Jones went out with a knee injury. You had Richard Rodgers go down from a shoulder. That's why we saw Lance Kendricks out there for a good part of the game. Then we also had Josh Jones, who had a shoulder, came back to the game, and then went out with a knee injury. So
yikes.
The double whammy there. So lots of interesting things happening all across on the injury front during the course of that game. I mean, it's just ridiculous to think about. Plus, you had Geronimo Allison has an illness. Then Jahari Evans has a knee. You got linebacker Nick Perry still out with an issue. I mean, the list is just all over the place. I think there was a joke, actually, that McCarthy said that he wasn't even going to have 53 to field the team come Sunday, the way everything's been going down.
Yeah, 'cause what's the minimum? 46 players?
I forget what they actually have to dress. Yeah. Crazy.
We'll just find anybody. Volunteers. Anybody. The people that normally come shovel the snow at Lambeau, come suit up and just, stand there and look pretty.
Yeah, I mean, anybody could play at this point. Because they're just pulling guys off the street in order to get them in there.
Oh, my goodness. It's going to be interesting because, like one of the listeners alluded to earlier, even this bad season, this bad ending, and who knows what's going to happen in Detroit. Troy, it is going to be a long off season as we wait patiently for, I think it's April for the NFL draft and then the official schedule release and then an even longer wait. So we got to savor this last game, whatever it is, whoever it is that's wearing green and gold, savor it.
Well, I'm just excited that we're going to have the fun opportunity to once again play against the Atlanta Falcons. But finally, finally we're going to play them on our terms, because the Bears, Lions, Vikings, Cardinals, Niners, Bills, Dolphins, and Falcons will be our home games in 2018. And then we'll face the Bears, the Lions, the Vikings, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Patriots, Jets, and Redskins, all on the road. And that means I'm excited to come out to see my good friend Wayne Henderson in LA to go to the Rams game, because that'll be fun.
That will be fantastic, and we will definitely have a large group of supporters there. However, there are plenty of rumblings that the Packers at Rams game may go from Los Angeles to London.
Oh, no, it's the London Jaguars.
They play a lot of games in the UK as well, but the Rams go there quite often, and
that's because the Rams were terrible. Now the Rams are all going to win the Super Bowl. I don't think the Rams are going to be planning to play that over in jolly old England.
But maybe it's already been decided, and just because the Rams are all of a sudden playing great football, they can't back out of it. I don't know. Even Mike McCarthy has talked about, someday we would like to have the Packers play a game abroad in the UK, but we're certainly not giving up one of our home games. I don't know. I just have a feeling that I'm not going to get to see him in LA, but I'm going to be ready.
Well, we'll go to London then.
There
I got to travel anyway. I mean, it's about the same distance to go to LA as it is to London for me. So a little bit longer of a trip for you, but you can have a layover here in Chicago.
There you go. Always looking on the bright side, Troy. I love that. And some of our friends in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group, they had some thoughts on the matchups. Colm Nolan in Ireland said, I'd love the Rams game moved over here. Short flight from Ireland to the UK to see the Pack.
Peter Allison also said over in the UK, bring them near me. Going to be a tough year next year. Yeah, it's a scary schedule.
Patriots. I hope they stink by then, because that would be nice. Steven says, the Atlanta Falcons is a team we need a break from. Plus, we have to play the overrated Patriots.
Yes, and guess what? No Cowboys. See, I'm always bringing the positive notes. Oh, wait, no, that was Terry's comment.
That is nice that we're not playing the Cowboys again. And on Twitter, Kevin in England says, what's your gut feeling, guys? Obviously, I'm biased and would like England, so I can see the Packers for the very first time. Even fans of other teams are eagerly awaiting the visit of the Packers. They're a big draw over here, too. The Rams are a good team this season, but I don't think they're going to make it to Minnesota for the Super Bowl. So Packers at Rams would be an exciting matchup for the UK fans and, you must be thinking of us, Troy, traveling USA fans.
Yeah, it would be exciting to head on over there just to see what it would look like. But I'm still big that, NFL football is US football. Maybe Mexico, maybe Canada. No. But NFL, if they want to play football over in Europe, they should just bring back NFL Europe, because I was a big fan when I was in 8th grade. It was a good time.
I was a big fan of NFL Europe, too. Got those springtime NFL games while you're waiting for the fall season here. I really miss it. I can't believe that it didn't work out. Of course, there's rumblings that what's-his-name might be bringing back the XFL.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. It'll be interesting to see what McMahon's able to do.
Now might be the time to strike.
He should do the XFL in Europe, because that probably would work better.
The XFL in Europe and America, and have teams travel, but maybe need it to be after a bye week, so they don't have to just suddenly play a game in Topeka and then play a game all the way over in London. But and speaking of Canada, I heard today that Johnny Manziel might be playing football again for the CFL.
Oh, really? I'm excited for the CFL to start up, but I'm even more excited to watch some good old AFL games now that I have some time on my schedule. The AFL is crazy.
Oh, Aussie rules football. Yeah, that's... I don't even think they get as injured in that as the Packers did this year, and they're not wearing all the uniforms that the Packers are wearing. So I don't know why we get hit so heavy. Troy, do you have any keys to victory? What do the Packers have to do to end on a high note this year?
Well, the good thing about Detroit is that its pass defense this season has given up nearly 250 yards a game through the air and 3,739 in total, good for 28th in the NFL.
Wow.
So if the Packers want to finish this season with a win, they'll have to turn to Brad Hundley, let him loose, let him make the plays he wants to make. Just let him have control of the offense, because where Hundley has found success this season is in the very quick passing game, in particular the slant routes over the middle and quick screens to wide receivers. So quick pass routes that don't take as much time to develop are the bread and butter of the Packers offense, even when Aaron Rodgers is playing. So if we can get back into that rhythm and get into the two-step quick slant kind of passes and let the receivers make a play and get the run after the catch, I think that's going to be our biggest key to a victory. Because my other one, unfortunately, was squashed today when McCarthy said that Aaron Jones probably has zero chance of playing on Sunday, because where I think Jamal Williams has been great for the Packers this season, he's a powerful downhill runner that gets great on third down, short yardage back for the Packers, but it was really Aaron Jones that had the explosion, right? Rushing for 448 yards on 81 attempts this season, an average of 5.5 yards a carry. Twice Jones ran for over 120 yards, and those were only 2 games in which he was given over 15 rushing attempts. So I would have loved to have seen Aaron Rodgers. Everybody likes to see Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, me too. Here.
But,
Dilly.
I would have loved to have seen Aaron Jones kind of get the rock, in this game particularly, but unfortunately it does not look like he will be playing this week. So relying on Jamal Williams and, of course, let the running game set up that short passing game, I think will be the key. But I know I sound like a broken record, but the biggest one, I mean, when you got the highest paid quarterback in the NFL going for you on the other side, you have to just take him out of the equation and make sure that he can't earn any of that money. And that's by the pass rush. Getting sufficient pressure on quarterbacks this season has been a chore for the Packers. And what has caused this defense to fail so many times is a lack of their pass rush. We've given quarterbacks way too much time to find receivers and make big plays. So with younger players like Reggie Gilbert, Kenny Clark, Vince Beagle getting some more opportunities, we got some fresh legs out there. I think it'll be really interesting to see what the pass rush is able to do, but don't do it so good, because we don't want it to be like, oh, look, there's a pass rush. Dom Capers can keep his job.
No, don't do
just
that.
Some pass rush to make the game entertaining.
A pass rush would be great. I mean, imagine, our defense has had some woes, but imagine how we would have been this year if we didn't have Kenny Clark from here in the IE. I mean, he really saved our bacon on quite a few occasions.
Yeah, I'm really excited for these 3. I think these 3 are the future of the defense. If we can put a couple more pieces together, I think it'll be pretty good going forward, because yeah, it was Minnesota, and yes, it was outside and it was cold, but still, there've been glimpses this year where the defense was actually pretty decent. We just got to be consistent, and that comes down to conditioning and making sure we can avoid the injuries long term.
I had a wacky thought. Is there any way, just because this game, doesn't have, playoff implications or anything like that, is there any way we could run a few plays where we have Brett Hundley and Joe Callahan out there at the same time?
Do a little wildcat action?
Yeah, just totally confuse the defense and give Packers fans at home something to smile about.
Well, if Aaron Jones isn't going to play, we need a running back, and Hundley uses his legs quite well. So let's start Callahan at QB and bring in Hundley as the running back. That way, as he's bringing forward with the ball and he doesn't find a hole, he can just toss it for a quick 5 or 6 with those short passes I talked about. Could be magical.
Do it, Packers. Do it. Shall we dig into a few of the tidbits, the highlights from this week's official Green Bay Packers dope sheet for Week 17's Packers at Lions game?
It is one of the oldest rivalries in the NFL, so I'm sure there's some good stuff this week.
That is the rumor. Of course, many of these players playing this week weren't involved in a lot of stuff, because I don't even know who some of the people on the field are. But you can read the entire dope sheet at PackersFanPodcast.com/151. The 7-8 Green Bay Packers wrap up their season in Detroit against the Lions, hoping, like you said, Troy, to finish without a losing record. The Packers and Lions have met in the final game of the regular season 14 times, with Green Bay holding a 7-6 with one tie record in those contests. And the Packers have won each of the last 5 matchups between the two teams in the final game of the regular season. So, although those were certainly with Aaron Rodgers and probably Brett Favre, history is still on our side. And since 2006, the Packers are 9-2 in the final game of the regular season. I'd sure like to see that come into play as well. In fact, I'd be happy.
Including that one where the Bears could have just knocked us out and didn't, and then we came back and squashed them. It was awesome. It was awesome.
That was beyond awesome. And the Packers are 8-3 overall at Detroit under head coach Mike McCarthy. And a couple of notable connections. Packers linebacker Nick Perry is from Detroit. And Lions guard, I still can't believe he's a Lion, TJ Lang originally entered the NFL as the 4th-round pick of the Packers in 2009 and spent 8 glorious seasons in Green Bay. So get ready for Packers at Lions with the Green Bay Packers dope sheet. Again, linked in our show notes at packersfanpodcast.com/151.
Well, it'll be inside this week, so it'll be, a balmy 73 or so inside the dome on the artificial turf. It's going to be pretty boring, actually. So let's just get on with the scores.
Okay, because, well, I don't know. Last week was a mess. Why don't you go first, Troy?
Okay, sure. Packers win because I can't have a losing season. Packers win 10-9.
10-9. Hey, yeah, I'm just glad you're calling for a Packers victory.
Low scoring efforts.
I totally agree. I think it's going to be low scoring. It might even be ugly. Not as ugly as last week. The Packers do win. Somehow we're going to manage 17 points, and the Lions are only going to get 15. So you've got a 1-point margin of victory. I've got a 2-point margin of victory, as long as it's a victory.
Victory would be nice.
Because
go out with a win.
Because I would have a totally different thought if maybe the Lions still had a shot of getting in the playoffs, but their playoff dreams have been crushed as well. So, that little added oomph of getting, making us happy, getting them knocked out of the playoffs, that's not going to happen. What is going on with the playoffs? I mean, it's pretty much set, right?
Yeah, at this point, Philly, I think, is controlling its own destiny. I thought it actually had one game, and since they won, I think they have locked up the home field advantage for the NFC. The only team that could have something to play for this weekend is the Seattle Seahawks. They would need the Falcons to lose to the Panthers in order for that to happen. So very good possibility the Seahawks could get in there. So whoever the Seahawks are playing, they need just cheer for them because I don't want the Seahawks in the playoffs either.
Yeah, so the Seahawks need to win and have the Falcons lose to get in. That seems reasonable. It's not one of those wild list of complications like I think the Buffalo Bills have to go through to get in.
And I think there's still a potential that the Steelers could end up taking the number 1 seed in the AFC if they win and the Patriots lose and somebody else loses. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, because anybody but the Patriots having the number 1 seed would be just fine. I think the Jaguars missed it by 1 game. I think they're just trying to figure out whether to be the number 3 or 4. The Rams are just trying to figure out whether they're going to be the number 3 or 4 seed. But, hey, I mean, I even saw an email come through from Ticketmaster saying, hey, Rams playoff tickets go on sale. I'm like, one, that's amazing to think of. There hasn't been a playoff game in LA in over 20 years, but it's not going to be Packers at Rams. So I'll pass.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the playoff machine right now. So if the Bears were to win and Carolina were to win, Carolina could jump all the way up to the 2nd seed.
Really?
Yeah, that's crazy talk.
How about if the Bears win and beat the Vikings, but Carolina loses? So that way, that'll be a win-win for me because I don't need Carolina that high up.
Yeah, if Carolina loses the game to the Falcons, then the Falcons make the playoffs. The Seahawks are eliminated. Carolina is 5, Atlanta is 6, and Minnesota takes number 2.
I'm still calling for a Rams-Jaguars Super Bowl.
So if the Bears were to win and the Falcons were to win, then Minnesota would still at least get a first-round bye. That's kind of sad.
That is very sad. And there's so many annoying Vikings fans that are just so sure they're going to be the first NFL team to play a Super Bowl in their home stadium. Yeah, but you still have to win it. Otherwise, stinks to be you.
Yep, so pretty much the Rams is all buttoned up for that side of the coin. And then New Orleans, they're sitting with the 4 losses. So I think the South is pretty much buttoned up there as well. So, yeah, it'll be most likely Philadelphia with the 1, Minnesota with the 2, Rams 3, Saints 4, and then Carolina, Atlanta 5-6 would be my guess. Unless the Panthers were to win, then the Panthers would actually jump to the 3rd seed and take the South, and then New Orleans would be the 5th and Atlanta would be the 6th if the Seahawks were to lose.
That would be crazy. 3 teams from the NFC South in the playoffs at the same time.
I know that's a division that sucks, right?
That's how I feel. But
That's
props to former Brett Favre backup quarterback Doug Peterson coaching the coaching the Eagles and getting them to this position, even with their troubles at quarterback. But they have so many quarterbacks, it seems like. Who's it going to be week to week?
I'm just excited for the potential Jacksonville AFC Championship game.
That'd be amazing.
Can't wait. I really hope they pull it off.
It'd just be fun. Something different. If we don't get our Packers, we can get something different.
I'm a Jaguars fan all the way.
There you go. Because you just got back from Florida.
I did.
Were you anywhere near Jacksonville?
Near in the sense that I was closer to Jacksonville than Chicago, yes.
Okay. That counts for me, Troy. Go Packers.
Right,
beat those pesky Lions.
Just do it for the fun of it. All right. Well, that'll finish it up this week. We'll have one more episode next week to talk about how things wrapped up for the 2017 campaign. The Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the Green Bay Packers or the NFL. However, if you want us to be there, then you got to help make that happen. Tell them to email us at media@PackersFanPodcast.com.
And remember to listen to next week's episode on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast app for iOS and Android. And follow us all during the offseason as well, at Packers Fan Pod on Twitter, and me on Twitter, at Wayne Henderson.
And me at Twitter, I'm at Troy Heinrichs. Be also willing to join up for our Packers Facebook community group. It'd be a great way to keep in touch with all of you during the offseason, the OTAs, the draft, and all that fun stuff. That's PackersCommunity.com. Again, that's PackersCommunity.com. Go over there, join the Facebook group. Let's build that sucker up and have some real fun for when the Packers win their 14th title in 2018.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of great conversations in that Facebook group, especially over the past couple months. It's really built up. And during the off season, around the draft and the schedule release, we'll have episodes of the podcast, but there's going to be long periods where we won't, but the conversations will be easy to get to right in that group. But there is one game left, and after that game, we want to hear your voice and get some voicemails on next week's episode. So go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback or simply call us at 920-3PACK-GO.
Be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. Tell us how we did this season, covering all of the ups and downs and fun that we've had. But until next time, make sure that you subscribe so you do not miss an episode of the Packers Fan Podcast. Now, let's get hyped. Game time. It's the last one of the season. We got to make sure we win to go 8-8. Cheer along with everybody. Say it now, real loud. Go Pack, go!